Hey, everybody. We are live at Paste Studios right now with Glen Hansard. Glen, thank you for being here, man.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate it very, very much. I was fortunate enough to catch that bookstore show on Friday, and it was outstanding. So we are stoked that you've joined us here in this tape library here, and we're surrounded by some friendly ghosts and some rock and roll history. So thank you for adding to it.
Absolutely, it's a wonderful feeling to sit here among all these tapes. It's a bit like being in the bookshop. You know, there's a lot of wonder pouring off those ledges, and this is much closer to our home. Wild.
Well, we are This Wild Willing is the album that's coming out on April 12th on Anti Records, and we are happy to hear 4 songs off of that today. Can you tell us what you're going to start out with?
We're going to start with a song called "I'll Be You, Be Me," which is a song that was improvised in the studio while recording this record in France, and I was trying to get at some kind of intimacy, trying to connect with some kind of idea of intimacy and about to do with surrendering to someone and until you become each other, you know. And then my friend David Cleary put on this beat, and he said, you know, I have a beat that might work over this song, and he said, you know, it's from the Queen and Bowie session for Under Pressure. It's funny, I can reach out and touch Bowie.
Yeah.
He said no one will ever know. It's a cassette demo of a no one will ever hear it, and so we fell in love with this little beat. And what's really nice, if you listen to the loop, the original loop, you can hear Bowie just go. So you can, his voice is actually on the little drum loop, and we thought it was great that these people were on there. It's a bit like being in this room. You know, you feel it's great because all these musicians had played and all of these tapes were in those rooms. So there's a kind of an energy to it, you know, if you think about it on an energetic sort of level. So we went ahead and recorded the song, kind of fell in love with the beat, of course, fell in love with the demo, and then mixed the song, mastered the song and mastered the album. And then somebody finally convinced me to download Spotify, which I was very reluctant to do for a long time, only because I just didn't really know that world. But I decided, somebody told me you can make mixtapes on Spotify, so I got excited about that idea. So downloaded it, and within 6 songs, Spotify played me the Queen song with that beat. And I cursed my friend for a week. And we all cursed him, and then we decided we had to go knock on the front door, and we had to ask Brian May for permission to use the beat, because at this stage everything was done. And of course, Queen had a movie coming out, so that phone didn't get answered for a few months. But eventually they allowed us.
Which actually, in some of that Live Aid performance, there's audio from that Live Aid performance on a tape in that room, which we can go check out afterwards. If you've got even a minute to nerd out on all these tapes, this is a nerd-outable room.
It's incredible. Yes, it really is. Really nice to walk in here and feel all the instruments and actually to meet all the people. So very nice feeling. So I'll Be You, Be Me. Yes, it's and we fell in love with the beat and we kept it. And so, it's cost us a lot of money, this beat. So we're going to really enjoy it. Yeah. Your love's a bonny snare, traps me in the evening. Got me hanging in midair. Now I'm swinging from the ceiling. But it's me that's looking now. It's me that's seeking something. When you're nowhere to be found, must I keep on looking? I'll be you, be me, and I'll be you. I'll take your truth, your lies, your secrets. I love your strength, your pride, your weakness. was all good things, and I'm the fool whose spell she's under. And she laid a silken thread, a warm scent in the evening. If you follow the trail of death, you come upon the place she's sleeping. I'll be you, be me, and I'll be you, and we won't say no more about it. How about you be me, and I'll be you, and we'll just leave it where we found it.
Man, that sounds great. Thank you for coming and doing
Oh,
this.
thank you.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit? You were mentioning earlier some of the importance of improvisation on this record, and maybe can we talk about the increased importance of improvisation in the studio on the Wild Willing versus maybe previous albums, and talk about how important that was, and also the just surrender to every one of the other artists that's in it to allow them to shape the album equally to the way you shaped it.
Yeah, I mean, there are times in one's life where you feel like you have to take something by the horns, and you have a vision and you follow it and you go after it, and you kind of captain the ship from top to bottom. You know, and that kind of is the song. It's kind of the imagined songwriter's lot. This idea, like, you have a burst of inspiration, you write it down, you basically instruct the double bass player or the piano player, and you sort of go, I want it to sound like, you give a kind of a reference of what kind of a sound you want it to have, and you know, you go after it, and then the idea is that you come out the other end and it sounds like your vision of the song. And 9 times out of 10, that's probably how it goes. But for me, whatever was going on in my life or whatever was going on with me, I just had this feeling, I just wanted to draw people in because I knew that I didn't know. I knew that whatever was going to happen with this record, my vision for it was very unclear, which for me is really freeing, because usually I'd be quite specific about a vision for a record. And so I invited all of these people in a kind of a vulnerable way. I said, just come and join me. And I have these scraps, I have these thoughts, I have these lines, these threads. I didn't have anything built, and all I had was threads. And I knew that if I put the right people beside me, that I would be propelled somehow. And really operating on this idea that beauty exists outside of comfort. So I knew that I didn't know what the record was going to be, and I was actually kind of into that. And that's got something to do with wherever my head was at during this particular period of my life. I just knew that I wanted, like, I brought two dear friends from Dublin, Dunk Murphy and David Cleary, in as, and they've, you know, done a little work with the Frames in the past, and I asked them to I just said, will you just do us a favour and just disrupt? I just want you to disrupt. That's your job. Whenever you hear something going two in one area, just do something to break it. And so the Persian musicians that I invited to the studio were such wonderful guys. They would just sit in on every song and just and find a way to swim inside it. But they really worked best when they knew what the lyric meant. And they speak Iranian and Persian, and their French is okay. My French is terrible. So they'd know English, and so we had to somehow communicate. I had to somehow communicate the lyrics of the song. So I found myself a lot being quite descriptive about what my song was about. And I was thinking maybe it's a religious thing. They you know, I don't want to offend the Muslim faith, or, you know, and they were like, no. We just want to swim with you. That's the reason we want to know the lyric, is because we want to be able to. That's how we play music in Persia. Is that it's all about the lyric. We follow the lyric line. That's what inspires us. And so you're dealing with, and then of course there's Joe and there's Ruth and there was Javier and Earl and Eamon, and it's kind of gathering as spirits in a room, and that just allows you to sort of go into a space. And pretty much every song on the record was the song that came between doing takes of a song that was written. So I'd written a bunch of songs, and so we were doing takes, and then whenever we'd be between takes, I'd start playing some little thing, and, you know, everyone would join in, and then suddenly, I mean, David, fair play to him, our producer David Odlum, was recording everything. And so it was always those little moments in between the songs we were recording that ended up being the album. So I didn't really know I had an album. Like, I remember Howard asking me, so how are you doing with the record? I was like, I don't know. I don't know where it is. I don't know what it is. And then suddenly we listened to all this stuff that had happened in between takes. And I said, we have an album. I didn't realize it, but there it is. There's actually, if you forget about what we went in to record and just think about what rose out of it, naturally we hit on something really interesting. So for me, it's an important record in that I, you know, every time you release something into the world, you should be nervous. You should be, you know, it should feel like you're revealing something. It should feel like you're risking something. And this record feels a bit like that. And it's exciting to play these songs. I mean, even you know, the three of us were talking earlier on, because we never played the songs. We recorded them, but we never played them. We never figured out what the chord was. We were just kind of playing with each other. So it's nice to play the songs now as a small band, even though in the studio we did record them, but nobody remembers that moment. It was kind of a moment of inspiration. We just followed.
Right. Well, hopefully you're having as much fun playing these songs as we are listening to them, because it's been outstanding, and I'm glad that all of those circumstances lined up the way they did to create The Wild Willing. It could not have been otherwise, and it's outstanding. I hope that everyone who's watching this right now gets a chance to check out the record. It's coming out on April 12th on Anti, This Wild Willing, and man, thank you so much for coming and doing this. We've got bonus songs, and we've got 3 more songs coming up off the album. Can you tell us what you're going to do next? Yeah,
so the next song we'll play is a song called Fool's Game, which started sitting in front of a vocoder, a Russian vocoder with my friend Dunk. And he was like, here, check this thing out. And I was like, meow, meow, and singing into this thing, which made this amazing, odd sound. And then the song just came. I just noticed that. I said, it's a fool's game. Because the lay on the vocal was going, wow, wow, wow. And so fools. Oh, it's like, oh, okay, well. And then suddenly we had a song, and we went in and we recorded it really quickly, and it was done. So again, just that thing of like, here's a very, very simple sort of, you know, it's not a cautionary tale. It's more a song about I love you, you love me, and I'm the only one that you answer to, and you're the only one I answer to, in terms of what all this means. And we don't take love advice from anybody. You know, we're gonna crash, and we're gonna butt heads, and it's gonna be. Love is not, you know, like music. Love is not hygienic. It's dirty. It's filthy. It's bloody. It's you know, it can be vicious. You know, and so there's just this idea of like, are you ready? Are we going in? And you hold each other's hands, and you enter this fool's pact, which is love. You know, and it's a wonderful thing. So that's what the song's about. It's a fool's game. lover that we have to play, crashing into each other, no convalescing. It's a leap of faith, lover that we blindly take. I'm taking it with you and no other, no hesitating. And if our minds they go and our bones they shatter, we'll put it on nobody but ourselves. It's an old refrain, lover that we hear again, urging a cautious measure and sounding a warning. It's a thin escape, lover that we hope to make when we're beaten, broken and battered beyond consoling. And the breezes blow, and to the winds we're scattered, and we're fending for nobody but ourselves. When you've nothing but a heart to break, you better keep on breaking it, lover, until it opens. It's a speeding train, beating through the pouring rain, with no way to slow or stop it, and the tracks are broken. And like a rising wave, through the storms we gather, and we're falling on nobody but ourselves. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That sounds great.
All right.
Can we? It's the most basic question possible, but I feel like I would be remiss if we didn't ask it based on the room that we're in and based on how interesting I suspect this answer is about to be. Can we talk a little bit about your influences, either growing up, going a long time back, or who you were listening to quite a bit of while you were writing or improvising This Wild Willing? Whether, I mean, musical or literary or whatever. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be limited to the music world.
I understand. What influences a record? It's a good question. Everything, I suppose, every single thing. But you know, records are born in a place. For me, I feel like when I sing, like for instance, even singing the song now, I was by the Seine, just entering the Marais. It's like I go back visually to certain spots in Paris whenever I think about these lyrics, because I was writing these lyrics in Paris, and I was writing them with the headphones on, listening to the tunes. And so certain lines were coming in certain parts of the street. And so for me, this record is synonymous with Paris, even though it was recorded in Angers, which is a 3-hour drive west of Paris. For me, the record will always be the streets around the fifth arrondissement, the Latin Quarter, so I would say this. I would say the city. Ernest Hemingway would have a big influence on the songs too, only because when I got to Paris, the first thing I did was I went and I bought a book from one of the bucanistas down on the Seine.
I thought you were going to say the first thing you did was got drunk and got in a fight with a stranger. But
it was right after. No, thankfully that didn't happen. And I brought a movable feast, Ernest Hemingway, back up to where I was staying, and I opened the book and I began to read, and I realized the opening lines of the book. You know, the opening line, was maybe a paragraph in, was, "And the wind would blow the leaves off the trees in the Place Conrescarpe." And I realized I was sitting in the Place Conrescarpe. And so this was such a kind of a mind-blowing moment to realize that Hemingway was most likely sitting at, you know, in this square, maybe even in this spot. And I felt it as a great welcome to the city, if you like. Sometimes I think cities can do that. New York will do that. It will welcome you in a way that's like, wow, you just had this like private, what's the word? Acceptance, you know. And so reading that book, he wrote it. There was a line not so far into the book, he wrote this great line, like, if you're having trouble writing, because the book is about writing. The book is about living in Paris and writing. And he said, if you're having trouble writing, which I was, you know, I decided on a strict regime of writing between 9 and 11 every morning, that I would get up and I would sit in front of my book, no matter what came and what didn't come. The phone wouldn't be on. It would be away from the table. I wouldn't look at it. The only thing I could do was get up and go for a pee and sit back down. That was the only thing I was allowed to do. And it really it ended up being a kind of a meditation. Because you're sitting there, even though you may not be writing, you're sitting there available to the muse and calling upon it. And that meditation ended up creating a huge wealth of writing that came out of me during that period. And Ernest Hemingway had said in the book, he said, if you're having trouble writing, just write one true line, something that's true. And we all have a true line in us. We all have something that we know is true right this second. So when you write that down, then everything else will flow out of it. And it was really true. I found that I went with that a lot during that time. And so with the lyrics on this record, I decided that every lyric on the record would be a specific moment that I would remember from my trip, like a specific moment that happened. I decided not to put anything that was just pulled out of the sky, which, you know, I would do a lot. You know, oh, that sounds like a nice lyric, bit of songwriting magic. You know, that kind of works with that. But the problem when you write like that is that you forget where that inspiration came from, and so sometimes you forget the lyric. So if you anchor each line into an actual event during your time, it's never underestimate how attractive the ordinary is. And sometimes you write something very ordinary that happened to you, and it has this incredible feeling and every time you sing the song, you're back in that ordinary moment that you've now made special by witnessing that moment.
It's fascinating to me how the right lyric on this album in some cases is not a word at all. It was, I mean, sort of going back to the meditative nature of your practice. I mean, some of those sounds sound very much like mantras or meditative sounds that people make when they're trying to get into that state. And this record does, I'm sure it's going to do that for a lot of people when they listen to it, because sometimes the right lyric in the right feeling isn't the word at all.
Yeah, you're right. And we talked a lot about weather. I mean, that was the one of the big words that, you know, this feels like weather coming in, and that was the feeling we were trying to create with the songs, just that something kind of like emerges like a fog or like a storm, and like there was, you know, one song, "Way to the World," we're like, can we just get the end of this song subsumed in wind, so that it just kind of just something comes in and takes the song over, and then it just disappears. So in a funny kind of a way, once you set up this almost musical imagery, it allows the vocal to then follow into that that place. It was very much like painting, you know, and we were dealing with people who really understood sonics, you know, these electronic guys. David, who's made incredible records, you know, who's recorded everything from sort of like experimental dance music to narrow-in. So he really understands acoustic instruments, and then of course the Iranians, who have a very particular tone when they play. You're taken into a different place, you know. So yeah, it was a sonically a very, very interesting place, and it really a wonderful group of people to work with.
Well, the record is fascinating, and thank you again for bringing this music to us today. We've still got 2 more songs to play off This Wild Willing. If you were just joining us right now, This Wild Willing's out on April 12th. And Glenn, can you tell us what you're going to play third off the record?
Yes, we're going to play a song called Race to the Bottom next. And this song, very much like what we were just talking about, every line in this song is a moment during my first 1 month trip, where I was given a small room in an old monastery in the Latin Quarter, and it's now an Irish cultural centre. But the rooms are very simple, tiny little room, single bed, writing desk, and a window. So you're looking out onto Paris, and you're in the Latin Quarter, so it's all out there. It's all outside your window. It's an amazing place. But you're in this tiny spot. And when I sat down to write these lyrics, I committed to what happened today. And I would write a rhyming couplet for a little events of my day. And that was a very simple, very simple task. But it really added to the song. And it's funny that now when I sing it, I'm right there in those moments. I remember exactly where I was. It's so, I've never done that before. It's literally diary entry stuff, you know. But it's also saying stuff. There was you know, the Gilets jaunes movement had really just been kicking off at the time when I was there, and there was a lot of violence in the streets, and I saw it and witnessed it, and there was a couple of moments, like there's a line in the song like where man's in decline, it's a nasty business. I remember seeing Louis C.K. at the flea market, and I was like, wow, there's Louis C.K. far out, wow. And I just had that moment of like, there he is. So, you know, what happens to a person when they've been obliterated out of history? You know, well, they're in the Paris flea market buying something, getting on with their lives, you know, or being quiet or whatever it is. But so every line in the song has a very specific place, you know. Anyway, it's called Race to the Bottom. Race to the Bottom is a play on the AC/DC title, It's a Long Way to the Top, if you want to rock and roll. AC/DC, to answer your last question, was my first band. Angus was my confirmation name, and they're still. And it's really great to get drunk with Ruth, because Ruth can sing every AC/DC lyric that's ever been written, and that's deeply impressive.
Thank you.
Did you point at an AC/DC?
I was pointing at the AC/DC tape, yeah. Which is
where?
Up and to the left.
Oh my God.
It's the Oakland Coliseum 1979 Monsters of Rock tour is on one of those blue tapes. It might be on the second row.
79.
Back. Yeah.
So Bon Scott?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Amazing.
I hope it's locked.
Yeah. So we'd sing this for that tape. 1, 2, 3. Sliding along by the Seine, it's Mayday. There's blood in the streets once again. It's a long way down to the bottom, and we're racing. I'm coughing my lungs up on Rue des Irlandais, becoming a risk to myself. It's a long way down to the bottom, and we're racing. The radio silence and the anarchists are gathering names, dates, and lists for burning. It's a long way down to the bottom that we've been racing. Oh, how you move me, but truly. Oh, how you set my heart aglow. Shadowing in with the crowds unnoticed. Somebody painted an X on my back. It's a long way down to the bottom, and we're racing. There's piss on the streets after dark in Paris. Even on dear Joan of Arc, she knows it's a long way down to the bottom that we've been racing. Even the gods, as they gaze down on us, know that there's no one to be saved among us. They keep turning away, turning away. We're singing along with the righteous people. The bullets will rain down from the mosques and the steeples. They keep turning away, turning away. Taste for the wine and a woman's forgiveness. Man's in decline, yeah, it's a nasty business. It's a long way down to the bottom, and we're racing. If you wanna know which way his loyalties are running, keep an eye on the money. It's a long way down to the bottom that we've been racing. Send the rains down on us. See a horizon that goes way beyond us. They keep drifting away, drifting away. And down in the dark, in the tick-tock alleys, time's running out and there's still bills to tally. We keep chipping away, chipping away. The Bucanista, Baldwin and Brecht, and the distance between us. It's a long way down to the bottom that we've been racing. I'm rising up strong like a snake that's charmed, that handsome sailor on my arm. It's a long way down to the bottom that we've been racing. Yeah. Thank you.
Man, I'm really enjoying this very much. So thank you. It sounds great in this setting. Can we talk a little bit about when you go out on tour? Or you're in the tour right now, right? Is that it started? Well, that's not the point. It's continuing out through the middle of May. You've got Western European dates. Yeah. And then East Coast dates, 4 of them, including you're back here on June 1st at the Beacon Theater. That's right. Can you talk a little bit about what people see at the live show in contrast to the stripped down setting you guys are playing today?
It's a bigger band. I think we're traveling this time with about 11 people on stage, which is a little bit less than we have been for the last few years. We had it at we were at 13 on stage for the last few years, and I think that band, the beauty and the kind of the breadth of that big band did change the writing, and it was such a, it's like a big kind of soul review band that I really enjoy being in. But there does come a time when you kind of go, right, even though I'm really enjoying this, I need to pull the plug because I need to figure out, I need to get uncomfortable again and get to a place where we're trying something else. So I kind of disbanded the horn section and the string section actually on the next trip. And we've also been traveling with the three brothers, the Puya, Nima, and Mani Khosrovesh, the Iranian musicians. We've been traveling with them in Europe. It's been quite difficult to get them visas, even in Europe actually. So England and Ireland have been very difficult. So we're bringing those guys to the gigs where we can bring them. And of course in the States it's just not going to be possible. So we'll be covering those guys' parts ourselves, but it's obviously it's not the same. They have such a particular tone. They're master musicians. I mean,
man, that's too bad. It's not surprising in any way, but that sucks that's the case. Man,
Yeah.
I wish that were not such a.
I think being Iranian in America right now is probably quite tough in terms of moving back and forward. You know.
Sure.
So yeah, it's the band is. The band will change for this trip, but you know it's always an exciting thing when the band changes because whenever there's a shift in dynamic, we always lean into it rather than it being something that we're weirded out about. It's like, oh yeah, great. What does that do? Wow, what happens when you take that away? Suddenly you have to fill this space somehow with something else. So it's interesting.
I had drafted an email to Kelly to ask that you bring some of the little kids from Little Kids Rock because it was such a good thing. They played with you for a couple of nights in New York. They just happened to be in the same space, and I was just about to hit send on a very eloquent email. I did a very good job writing it,
asking them to bring along here.
Would it be cool? Does this make any sense? I was about to hit send. I was like, fuck, did I listen to anything that Glenn has been saying about the sort of the temporal nature of these things and the importance of each individual arrangement? And that was a thing that made sense then and was absolutely outstanding. And then to ask you to repeat that here, so I didn't hit send on it at all because that was wonderful for what it was and for the couple hundred people that they got to see it. And so
and most of all, wonderful for those two. You know, they I think they had an experience there that I think they'll take with them. And for us, you know, every time something, when you walk on stage, you're surrendering to the moment you're in, and everything that happens in that space is okay. There's almost like a contract you sign with yourself. You know, we learned this through the frames the hard way, where it's like, you know, Colm described it as, you know, when we go on stage, it's a bit like robbing a bank. You know, without you know, but like someone's running in there with a gun, and someone has to keep the car running, and you know that it's an operation. You don't know how it's going to go. You just know that you're going to try to come out with the cash, you know. And so in a funny kind of way, a gig is similar in that you go on stage and you give yourself permission to follow that moment, wherever it takes you. Sometimes it goes on its face, and sometimes it can be awful. And other times it soars and something amazing happens, and you go with that too. So I've always been really fascinated by this idea. That's why I would find it hard to do theatre, because theatre is the script each night, and you do and as brilliant as that is, and of course theatre has its own dynamics, and of course it's not the same every night. There are differences, but I just love the idea that when things are feeling a little staid, you can go off script, and that. Not that you can go. That sounds scripted. That you can go off script, but this idea that you just follow the moment at a gig, and everything that comes to you in that moment is permissible.
Well,
is that the right word? Permissible.
Yeah, that is a word. That's the right word for the context. I am enjoying everything about this today. Thank you so much for coming by. If you, the internet, are just joining us right now, The Wild Willing is the album. It's out on April 12th, and we're carrying a fourth off of it. Can you tell us what's coming up next?
Yeah, this is a song called "Don't Settle." And it's a song that I wrote. Again, it came in between two songs in the studio. There was a little moment of piano and like diddle-a-ding, and it had a nice kind of sound to it, this little riff, and then whoa, whoa, don't settle. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And then "Don't Settle" became the whole premise for the song. And my mind drifted to, well, of course, I was thinking about Woody Guthrie a lot during that time, just purely on a social level, and what an incredible songbook he has. And but then I started thinking about Shane MacGowan, because it was his 60th birthday was coming, and I started to think about David Keenan, a young songwriter from Ireland who I really admire, who is very much having his moment come right now. And I wanted the song was kind of wanted to be a bit of advice to him of like, just keep digging, you know, when things are going well for you, don't sit back on that, keep digging, you know. And so the song ended up becoming a kind of me singing to myself, but also singing to people that I admire, you know, Lisa O'Neill, or, you know, songwriters that I really admire. So it's a very simple song, and at the end there's a mantra: "No enemy, no." It's something that Liam Clancy, one of the great Irish troubadours, had said to young Bob Dylan: "No envy, no anger, no cruelty, no regrets." And Bob had always apparently kept this as a great piece of advice, and so I threw that in at the end. So I'm quoting those lyrics are obviously Liam's. Okay. When you climbed the hill of vision, as above, so it was below. Through the apathy and derision, each step ascending you took alone. And when they pin you in the corner, pay no heed to their droning on, 'cause you're not going back where you don't belong. Well, you rose up through the ranks now, and you worked hard for your luck. You've only got yourself to thank now, you and everybody else in the book. And there are hidden hands to guide you, other forces now at play. But you've got to learn to get out of the way. Whoa, whoa. Don't settle. Oh, not yet. Ooh, don't settle for less. Your song ring true and bright now, and be honed by your own hand. As the day gives way to night now, may it echo through the land. And when they turn your words against you, try to grind you to the ground, let them know that they might beat you, but they'll never turn you round. Oh, oh. Don't settle. Oh, 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 oh. Not yet. Oh, don't settle. And don't forget. Well, you sought no one's allegiance. You were cowed by no one's hand. You outgrew your antecedents, worked your own corner of the land. And when they finally come to face you, come to mind the seam you struck, and you bid them well and wish them luck. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. This has been a great afternoon for us. Thank you so much for coming by. Glenn, thank you. Ruth, thank you. Joe, thank you. This has been great. And best of luck on the album. This Wild Wheeling comes out on April 12th. And travel safely. You've got a number of Western European dates through the middle of May. And then you're back on the East Coast, including a show at the Beacon Theater on June 1st. So I'll see you guys then with the 11-piece band. Is that
Yeah, it might actually be short. It might be smaller then. We don't know. We'll figure it out.
however works out. We look forward to it very much. Travel safely, and thank you so much for doing this. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thank you.